Hello everyone, this hour on Verbling, the next in my great short story series. We're working on Raymond Carver's The Cathedral. So far, we've read the very beginning of the story, so we're going to start with a little review of what we read, a little discussion of maybe the theme or the question I asked you to think about as we were doing the story, and then we're going to go on to part 2 and read and discuss it. So that's a bit about my class. Here's a bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour, and I'm an American teacher in New York. Not in New York, from New York. Hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate in my class. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means when you're not speaking, please turn off your microphone so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. When you are speaking, please tune in to the new words that you learn. Use them actively so that I can correct you and give you feedback. And finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. So, that's a bit about my class. Now, we're going to start the story. I've given you a link, which I'm going to share with you again. It's in the chat window. So let me just quickly open that, and I'll show you where we are as I do the review of what we've done so far. Hang on just a second while I get this open. There we go. So what I'm going to try to do here is, I think I downloaded this yesterday and I think that worked better. So I think what I'm going to do is open the document that I downloaded yesterday, because if I share my browser, it's always problematic. Give me just a second. See where I put it. I don't know. I'll download it again. Yeah, it's better that I do that. So while we're waiting for that, let me turn on my camera and I'll do a little review just to bring everyone up to speed. 1 second. Because it always takes a minute for these documents to load. There we go. So here's what I want to start with. Is this open? Oh, no, I have to wait for my documents to load. Well, yesterday I started by asking you a question. You can see it on page 2 of our document, which is, have you ever been in a situation where you met a person who didn't speak the same language as you, but you still needed to find a way to communicate? And yesterday we talked a bit about some situations we'd had and how we dealt with not speaking the same language. I talked about having to sort of grunt, try to communicate by giving people directions, pointing, things like that, and how helpless I felt. But I wonder if all the experiences we had like that are always negative. Koru, were you in the class yesterday? I can't remember. I think you were in the second class, but were you
Yes,
in
I was
yesterday?
in the class, yes.
Not yesterday, I'm sorry. I meant on Tuesday when we read the first part. I can't remember if you were here in the first part of the class.
Yes, I was in the first part.
Ah, okay. Good. So I wonder, my question would be just to think about, our experiences where we don't speak the same language, are they always negative? I remember there's a story that when Albert Einstein came to the United States for the first time, I don't remember who was telling the story, but I think it was a physicist or something. And the guy said he knew he was standing in front of the greatest mind of the 20th century, and the only thing that they could say was, you know, bathroom or doorknob or something like that. And they both laughed. And it was a good story because they were able to communicate really without language. They both recognized that they knew how absurd the situation was. I wonder if you've had any experiences like that, non-verbal experiences. Because we talked a lot about being frustrated by not speaking a language. But I wonder if you have any experiences, or you have any experiences that aren't negative, kind of like the one I'm mentioning. Just curious what you think about it. Communication it's going to be a big issue for this story. That's the reason why I'm asking. So, just curious, anything come to mind?
Yes. Of
Tell
course.
me about it.
Uh, of course. Yes. How to say? When you are saying about the no-verbal communication,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Because yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, Tuesday, everything we talked about was kind of negative when you're trying to communicate and you can't. I'm just curious if you can think of a time where you had a positive experience with nonverbal communication, like the anecdote I was telling about Einstein in America. Just curious if you can relate to it.
Yes, for example, when you go to a restaurant
Uh-huh.
and you don't know the name from the food, you have
When you're looking at
you
the menu.
yes, you have to repeat the sounds from the animal, for example.
So when you order, you have to say, you have to point at the menu or something and say moo,
Ooh.
moo. What's the sound for a glass of wine? Just out of curiosity.
The sound for a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Glue glue. Woo.
Uh, I'm saying this because I wonder if the fact that um, I wonder if all the experiences we have are always negative. We're going to meet two people in this story that have two very different ways of communicating, and it seems like it's going to be a problem so far because the guy who's visiting uh, is very different than the guy who's narrating the story, and the narrator this seems very apprehensive about the visit. So just something to keep in mind. Um, let me do just a quick review, a quick summary of what we know so far. Hang on just a second here. Okay, so I'm just going to recap what we've read in part one. So far, an unnamed narrator um, and his unnamed wife. This is kind of important. We don't know any names. They're just referred to. The wife is referred to as the wife, I think. Um, the unnamed wife used to work for a blind man, uh, and I think we don't know his name either, but we're going to.
his name is Robert.
Did we find that out already?
Yes.
No.
Blind man's name is Robert.
Okay, I don't remember that. So Robert's wife has recently died, and he's coming to visit the narrator and his wife. The narrator is not happy about this. He thinks blind people are sad and depressing. He bases this assessment on what he's seen in movies. But there's a whole history going on that we've learned about. So, for example, the wife has been communicating with Robert for a very long time. In fact, all the way through a previous marriage. Do you remember how they were communicating? Because they weren't really together.
And they send tapes with, with each other. Uh,
Yeah, audio cassettes, right?
Audio. Yes.
That's right, that's right. So they have these kind of recorded letters. They record their voice and send it. And one more question. How does the narrator feel about that? Oh, and not just that. Also, there's the poetry, too. There's the poetry. She writes poems, and one of the poems, at least one poem, is about Robert. How does the narrator feel about these audio tapes and the poem?
He feels suspicious about the relationship between his wife and the blind man, Robert, and it and that that worried him very much.
Why do you think he's so worried? I mean, we don't really know yet, but what's your feeling?
When I read the story, I feel some kind of jealousy from him toward the blind man.
Right. Yeah, he seems like there's a kind of intimacy that she has with the blind man that
Yes.
she maybe doesn't have with him. Maybe. We'll find out.
Even his wife let blind man touch her face, nose, cheeks, I don't know, face,
Neck. The point thing is that
neck, yeah, even neck. Yeah.
that's the part that he didn't like. On her last day of the job that she was working in, she let Robert. She was working for him. Actually, she met Robert in Seattle.
Yes.
And she met him in Seattle. See, this is a little bit confusing here. She met Robert in Seattle one summer before she got married, but it was not to him. It was to a previous man, right?
Firstly, she was married with an officer.
Right.
Yes, future officer. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy in the Navy, right?
The Navy guy. And then she worked. Yes. Then she worked. She worked in the office of blind man in the summer. After that, she has divorced with husband, and then she get acquainted with the protagonist of this story.
Right.
Yes.
But one really important event happened between her marriage to the naval officer and her marriage to the narrator. What the last thing we read at the end of the class on Tuesday? What was this key event that happened that ended her first marriage? Do you remember?
He tried to kill herself.
She tried to kill herself, and the only person that she seemed to talk to about this was Robert, right? She's sending tapes to him. So
she took medicine too much, and he went to the bath, but he bought it maybe, yeah.
And that's where we ended, right? That's where we ended in the last class.
Yes.
If you hang on just a second, I need to download this again so that I can share my screen with you. Give me just a second to download this as a doc. One moment. Let's see if I can get this right. Let's see. Is it working? There it is. Okay. So when I get this open, in just a second, if this works. This is so slow every time. Hold on a second here. All right, I'll tell you what. It's just taking too long. So I'll share my screen first, and I'll go to part 2. Here we go. Now it's open. 1 second. Let me just open this with my program. I got it downloaded now. All right. Okay. It's not opening. 1 second. All right. Well, this is taking a long time, so let me see if I can share my screen then. I put a new table of contents, so you'll see parts 1, 2, and 3 already there for you. If you click on part 2, it'll take you to, I don't know what page it is. Hold on. It'll take you to page 6 in your document. And
it's page 6.
Right. I'm trying to open the document on my screen, on my computer, so I can share my screen, but it is not opening. So, all right, I'll try to. I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, now it's opening, finally. Yeah, I don't know. It's something about the Hangout. It makes
Don't
it
worry.
very...
I have. I could maybe we can open the document for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about Kobo?
All right. So
Can you open the document?
Teacher, I had opened my document. Is that
Okay.
That's good. Okay.
okay?
All right. Okay. So listen, let me just read the last part of part one, just to remind you exactly where we left off. The last part one. Um, this is about her suicide. Okay. So I'm just reading the last part on page 4 and 5. Instead of dying, she got sick. She threw up. This is after she tried to commit suicide. She threw up. Oh, maybe I can go here on the document now. You can see where I am. One second. Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go. Instead of dying, she got sick. She threw up. Her officer, why should he have a name? He was the childhood sweetheart. And what does he want? Came home from somewhere, found her, and called an ambulance. So the narrator is already saying, why should I give him a name? That's how he feels about him. Came home from somewhere, found her, called an ambulance. In time, she put it all on tape and sent it to the blind man. Over the years, she put all kinds of stuff on tapes and sent the tapes off lickety-split. Next to writing a poem every year, I think it was her chief means of recreation. On one tape, she told the blind man she decided to live away from her officer for a time. On another tape, she told him about her divorce. She and I began going out, and of course she told her blind man about it. She told him everything, or so it seemed to me. Once she asked me if I'd like to hear her latest tape from the blind man. This was a year ago. I was on the tape, she said. So I said, okay, I listened to it. I got us drinks, and we settled down in the living room. We made ready to listen. First, she inserted the tape into the player and adjusted a couple of dials. Then she pushed a lever, the tape squeaked, and someone began to talk in this loud voice. She lowered the volume. After a minute of harmless chit-chat, I heard my own name in the mouth of this stranger, this blind man I didn't even know, and then this. From all you've said about him, I can only conclude, but we were interrupted. A knock at the door. Something. We didn't ever get back to the tape. Maybe it was just as well. I'd heard all I wanted to. Now, the same blind man was coming over to sleep in my house. Why don't you pick it up from there, Yuki? Why don't you start us off?
Sorry.
Why don't you pick it up from there in part 2?
Okay, maybe.
Oh, by the way, just a quick hello to Yuta, who's joining us right now. Yuta, you can follow along on screen, and you can open the document I just gave you by clicking on the link in the chat window, okay? And we're going to start reading. We just did a summary of what we read in the last class, and we're going to start reading the second part right now, okay? And here is your link if you want to open the document on your computer. Okay, go ahead, Yuki.
Maybe I could take. Oh,
that's right.
That's right. Okay. Maybe I could take him bowling. I said to my wife. She was at the training board doing scalloped potatoes. She put down the knife she was using and turned around. If you love me, she said, you can do this for me. If you don't love me, okay. But if you had a friend, any friend, and the friend came to visit, I'd make him feel comfortable. She wiped her hand with me dish towel. I don't have any blind friends. I said, you don't have any friend. Just a minute. Just a minute.
What's wrong? Can you see everything?
Just scream. You don't have any friends, he said. Period. Besides, she said, God damn it, his wife just died. Don't you understand that the man's lost his wife? I didn't. I didn't answer. She told me a little about the blind man's wife. Her name was Beulah.
I think that's right. Beulah?
Beulah. Beulah. That's name for a colored woman. Was his wife a Negro? I asked. Are you crazy? My wife said. Have you just flipped or something? She picked up potato. I saw it hit the floor, then roll under the stove. What's wrong with you? She said. Are you drunk? I'm just asking, I said. Right then, my wife filled me in with more detail than I cared to know. I made a drink and sat at the kitchen table to listen. Pieces of the story began to fall into place.
Okay. So I guess we're going to hear a little bit of background. So are you following along, Yuta? Because I know you joined a little late. Do you see where we are?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Where are you from, Yuta?
I'm from Japan.
From Japan. Nice to have you. Okay? So we're all going to take turns reading. If there's any questions, just interrupt and ask. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Koro, why don't you pick it up from paragraph 10?
In paragraph 10, the narrator, is speaking with his wife, asking about the first wife from the blind man.
Well, yeah, but why don't you read? Sorry, there's something wrong with my program. Hopefully you can see the text in the right place.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, but
okay.
Hang on just a second, because there's something wrong with the program. It's moving.
No problem.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, let me see.
Wait, my text is scrolling all over the place. Wait. Hold on.
Page 6.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, it's something very strange with my...
I have to read more. Keep reading now.
On page 7, yeah.
Yes.
Page 7, Below had gone to work.
Below had gone to work for the blind man the summer after my wife had stopped working for him. Pretty soon, Below and the blind man hunted. Let me see one.
By the way, can everyone see the text on screen okay?
I see the text on the screen.
All right. I think that Koro has a bad connection because I think she disappeared from class, so she'll be back. Well, Yuta, why don't you pick it up, and Koro will join us later. Okay? Do you see where we are?
Yes.
So, starting at the top of paragraph 10, let's find out about the woman that was married to Robert, the one who's coming to visit.
Sorry.
Wait, hang on, just sorry. There's something wrong with my program, as you can see. The text is
with my too. Sorry.
Wait, there's something wrong with my program again. The text is moving for no reason. Hold on. I don't know why it's doing this. I have no control over my computer. Unbelievable. I don't know. Wait, hold on. Let me just wait to stop. I have no idea why it's doing that. Okay, it looks like it stopped. So, Koro, want to pick it up? I'm sorry, Yuta. Let me give Koro the chance, and we'll go to you afterwards, okay? Koro, let's pick it up where you left off at the top of 10. All right?
Yes.
So we're talking about the church wedding.
Yes.
Right?
Pretty soon, Below and the blind man had themselves a church wedding. It was a little wedding. Let me see. No. It was Yes, yes. Who'd want to go to such a wedding in the first place? Just the two of them, plus the minister and the minister's wife. But it was a church wedding just the same. It was what Belo had wanted, he said. But even then Belo must have been carrying the cancer in her glands, after they had been inseparable for 8 years. My wife's were inseparable. Belo's health went into a rapid decline. She died in a Seattle hospital room.
Anyway, in a Seattle hospital room.
Seattle hospital room. The blind man sitting beside the bed and holding on to her hand. They'd married, lived at work and worked together, slept together, had sex, sure, and then the blind man had to bury her. All this without his having ever seen
What the
goddamn
goddamned woman looked like.
woman looked like. It was beyond my understanding. Hearing this, I felt sorry but the blind man for a little bit, and then I found myself thinking, what a pitiful life this woman must have led. Imagine a woman who could never see herself as she was seen in the eyes of her
Of her loved one.
loved one.
Right.
A woman who could go on day after day and never receive the smallest compliment for her beloved. A woman whose husband could never read the expression on her face, be it misery or something better. Someone who could wear makeup or not. What different to him? She could, if she wanted, wear green eyeshadow around on one eye, and straight pin in her nostril, yellow slacks, and purple shoes, no matter. And then to slip off into death, the blind man, hand or her hand, his blind eyes streaming tears. I am imagining now her last thought may be this, that he never even knew what she looked like, and she went on as place to grave. Robert was left with a small insurance policy and half of a 20 peso Mexican coin. The other half of the coin went in the box with her. Pathetic. Pathetic.
Now, hang on a second again. I'm trying to get to the next page. I don't know if I'm in the right place or not. Hold on. Sorry, I gotta use a different program next time. 1 second. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, I got pathetic. Right. Okay, so we get a lot of we get a lot of background now, don't we? First of all, Koro and everyone, what does this reveal about the blind man and his wife? And then the next question is, what does this reveal about the narrator? So, first, what do we find out about the blind man and his wife? Let's start there. Koro, what did you learn that you didn't know before?
I had known the past from this woman,
Right.
from the relationship from the blind man with the woman,
Uh-huh.
his wife, his died wife.
And what's the ironic thing? According to the narrator, what's the ironic thing about their relationship? You know, I think he finds one thing in particular.
That the wife never knows when the man his look or something, so he never feels.
Yeah, this comment that he can never compliment her, right? That he's gone through their entire relationship without knowing what she looked like. He can't compliment her. He can't say that she's beautiful. He can't talk about the clothes she's wearing. He doesn't even know. He wouldn't recognize her if he saw her. right? The narrator seems to find that really important and ironic. So my next question for any of you, what does that say about the narrator, in your opinion? What does that say about the kind of person he is? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what you think.
I think narrator have his opinion from the view of not blind man. She don't understand how the blind man's life is like, and she feels sorry for blind man.
He feels sorry. He feels sorry, right? You mean the narrator?
Yes, narrator.
Yeah, he feels
Narrator
sorry.
feels sorry for the wife of for the wife of blind man, for her life.
And maybe
Because she has no chance to be praised by her appearance, because blind one never see how the wife looks like. So
what the wife looks like. What the wife looks
what the wife looks like.
Right. Let me ask a question to Naoki as well. Naoki, do you understand more or less what's happening in the story so far? Is it clear?
I have more time to understand this.
So far, look, just a quick summary. We're a quick summary. Let me tell you a quick summary of the events. So far, we meet a man and a woman, and we don't know their name, but the woman's friend is coming to visit them. This story by Raymond Carver is probably his most famous story, and it was his favorite story because he said this story marked a turning point in his writing. It was somehow different than anything he had done before. So we're reading it because, first of all, the language is pretty simple. It's easy to follow. So it's good vocabulary. It sounds like a native speaker. There's things you can learn from it. But also, it's an important story in 20th century literature, late 20th century literature. And it's a story where something was different, at least according to the writer. Something was different. It was a big change. Okay? So many people compare Raymond Carver to Ernest Hemingway because he writes in a kind of minimal way, and the landscapes, the types of people and the types of places are very stark and very sort of pessimistic and dark and bleak. And this story is a little different than the normal story that he wrote. So it's a good example. Why don't you pick it up on 12 and 13?
Sorry, John, I have some questions in this chapter.
Go for it.
Firstly, the sentence, all this without his having ever seen what the golden woman that looked like. I don't understand that sentence. What does it mean?
Because he's writing the way that the character is thinking. It's a little bit stream of conscious. So he's kind of in a. So first of all, which paragraph is that? Sorry.
In the middle of this paragraph.
Yeah, but I'm on a different page than you. So just can you tell me the paragraph number? It's in 10.
Yes, it is what we just read. It's not, I think paragraph 10. Yeah. Now.
Okay. Wait. Let me just find it. I want to read it again.
All this without his having ever seen what the golden woman looked like.
But that's what we were talking. I can't see the line for some reason, but I don't know why. I can't find it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That's what we were talking about before. What is all of this? It's all of the things that he's describing about her, right? A woman could go on day after day and never receive a compliment from her beloved, from her husband in this case. So he's kind of naming all of the things that the husband will never see and never comment on. Isn't that what you mean?
Okay, now I understand. Second question. In the last of this sentence, this paragraph. Robert was left with a small insurance policy and half of 20 peso Mexican coin. What does it mean?
Hang on a second.
In the last of this, yes, now
Yeah,
in the top of the screen, it is displayed. Robert was left with a small insurance policy.
Right. So, what happened to Robert's wife?
Robert's wife has died.
Absolutely.
From
cancer. If she died, and she had an insurance policy, what did Robert receive?
Robert received insurance, yeah?
It's received money.
Right?
If she had an insurance policy, if she had life insurance, then she probably named him as the beneficiary, so he probably received money. And it says here that this whole line, and then to slip off into death, the blind man's hand in her hand, his blind tear streaming down. Her last thought was maybe this: he never knew what she looked like. And she on an express to the grave. Robert was left with a small insurance policy, half of a 20 peso Mexican coin. It sounds like he didn't receive much. It sounds like he didn't receive. He was left with a small insurance policy. So first of all, if he's blind,
I think it's a completely small sum of money.
Yeah, I think the narrator is being sarcastic. Like a Mexican coin is not worth very much in the United States, so he's kind of maybe exaggerating. He got a little bit of money plus half of a 20 peso coin. The other half of the coin they went into the box with her. So he's being ironic, but it's also something that people used to do. You know, you take a coin and you split it in half and you wear it around your neck like a pendant, like an amulet or a pendant. So it kind of it's like two halves of a heart. You get one half and your girlfriend gets the other. So it's kind of like something that people would do to show that they're together, to show their bond. So literally, it's being ironic, but I think it's also real. They actually split a coin in half, and the coin together shows the relationship. It's a circle, it's connected, and they split it in half because each one is half of that circle. So it's something that people used to really do. Is that clear? Yeah?
Yes.
And then it's symbolic too, because the circle is broken. One half is in the grave and the other half is probably in a necklace around Robert's neck. So it's also a bit symbolic. So yeah, that's a cultural thing. It's not obvious. People used to do that. Maybe not so much anymore.
It's a symbolic expression that means nothing has left with this wife.
Yeah, he's not left with very much, except the coin that they used to symbolize.
Except the coin.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
But, teacher, the most important word in this paragraph is the last word.
Pathetic.
Yes.
Who's pathetic? According to the narrator, who's pathetic?
The situation is pathetic.
Yeah, because he's blind. Because he went through his whole relationship without seeing her, and all he's got left is half of a 20 peso coin. Yeah, the whole situation. Particularly because he's blind, according to the narrator. So what does that say about our narrator? What does that say to you? To me, I think either the narrator is being brutally honest, or I don't know. Either he's being very honest, or he's being really superficial. I don't know.
It's ironic. It's ironic.
Yeah. But our appearance is that important? You know, he seems to be placing a lot of importance on how she looked. It's important, but is it so important? I think that's maybe the question we have to ask about the narrator. We have to think about it.
It's important just for this narrator. It is all his imagination. So I think I feel some arrogance with the thinking way of this narrator here.
You feel that he is arrogant.
Yes,
Yeah. He seems a bit arrogant. It seems like there could
because
be.
he don't know at all real life
Right.
of
So he's
blind man's
imagining the whole
wife.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's give Naoki a chance to read as well. Naoki, why don't you pick it up on here on my screen? It says 12. On yours, it should say 11. My numbering
Okay.
is go for it.
12?
Yeah, 12 on my screen. I saw my wife laughing. After pathetic, I saw my wife laughing.
Okay. I saw my wife laughing as she parked the car. I saw her get out the car and shut the door. She was still wearing a smile. Just amazing. She went around to the other side of the car to where the blind man was already starting to get out. This blind man featured this. He was wearing a full beard. A beard and blind man. Too much, I say.
A beard on a blind man.
Beard on a blind man.
Right.
Too much, I say. The blind man reached into the back seat and dragged out the suitcase. My wife took his arm, shut the car door, and taking all the way, moved him down the drive and then up the steps to the front porch. I turned off the TV. I finished my drink. Rinsed the glass. Dried my hands. Then I went to the door.
Right. What's a porch? Do you know what that is? Porch?
Porch.
That's an American word. I don't know if it's clear. Porch is the part of the house. Yeah, the entrance. Usually there's a little platform in front of the house. You sit there on your chair, and when it's hot, you sit outside drinking iced tea, playing the guitar. I don't know what you do. All right, I can't believe this again. Look at this. I don't know what's going on with my program. It keeps moving all over the place. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close this because it's not working. And I'm going to just share my screen with you because look at this. It's moving all over the place. Hang on a second. Let me share the browser with you. It's easier. Hold on a second. Let's do it like this. All right. So that's the porch. Okay, and what's the strange thing about the appearance of the blind man according to the narrator? Just to make sure that's clear.
Beard.
The beard.
Beard.
That's right. Okay, so hold on. Get back to the screen. Hold on. Okay, so Naoki, why don't you continue? Keep going to the next page.
Okay.
So we're on 13. My wife?
My wife said, I want you to meet Robert. Robert, this is my husband. I've told you all about him. She was beaming. She had this blind man by his coat sleeve.
Beaming. You know what that means, everyone?
Smiling, yeah?
Smiling. Smiling, really proud. Like really...
Shining.
Yeah. Keep going.
The blind man let go of his suitcase, and up came his hand.
Yeah, keep going. Do the whole page. Keep going,
okay.
Naoki.
I took it. His case held my hand, and then he let it go. I feel like we've already met, he boomed. Likewise, I said. I didn't know what else to say. Then I said, welcome. I've heard a lot about you. We began to move them, a little group, from the porch into the living room. My wife guiding him by the arm. The blind man was carrying his suitcase in his other hand. My wife said things Things like, to your left here. Robot, that's right. Now watch it. There's a chair, that's it. Sit down right here. This is a sofa. We just bought this sofa 2 weeks ago. I started to say something about the old sofa. I like the old sofa, but I didn't say anything. Then I wanted to say something else. Small talk about the scenic ride along the Hudson.
Scenic ride.
A
Scenic
scenic ride.
means that there's a beautiful scene, there's a beautiful image or point of view. Scenic.
Okay. Scenic ride along the Hudson. How going to New York? You should sit on the right-hand side of the train. And coming from New York, the left-hand side. Did you have a good train ride? I said. Which side of the train did you sit on, by the way? What a question. Oh, huh? Which side? My wife
He's
said.
asking the blind man which side of the train he sat on, right? What's the problem with that question? What's the
Oh.
Sounds
obvious
like a
problem?
very ridiculous question.
It's ridiculous. He can't see out the window. Who cares? Anyway, keep going to the bottom of the page, Neil.
Okay. What a question. Which side? My wife said. What's it matter which side? She said. I just asked. I said. Right side. The blind man said. I hadn't been on a train in nearly 40 years. Not since I was a kid. With my folks. That's been a long time. I'd nearly forgotten the sensation. I have winter in my bed now, he said. So I've been told anyway. Do I look distinguished?
Yeah.
Distinguished, my dear, the blind man said to my wife.
So, what does that mean? I have winter in my beard. I have winter. Does that mean his beard is full of snow?
No, it means that he had white hairs.
Yeah, he's got white hair. Not hairs, but hair.
Okay.
Right? He's got white hair in his beard. Does he look distinguished? Does he look smarter than before?
Long time has passed.
A long time has passed.
Since that time, when he went by train.
Right. So that could mean a lot of things. It could mean that since he's blind, he isn't able to get around as much, and maybe that's one of the reasons. So it could be a lot of reasons. And this ridiculous question, which side of the train you're sitting on, because the narrator is thinking, oh, it's more scenic to sit on the left side when you're coming back. Okay, well, that doesn't help very much. Because it says here the line I underlined, but I didn't say anything. He's thinking about which side it's on, and then he lets the question slip out. Let me just go to the bottom of the next page so we don't run out of time, and we'll talk about it a little bit, and I think we might be at the end of the class. You look distinguished, Robert, she said. Robert, she said. Robert, it's just so good to see you. My wife finally took her eyes off the blind man and looked at me. I had the feeling she didn't like what she saw. I shrugged. So she probably didn't like the question that he asked. And so that was the nonverbal language. Remember we talked about that at the beginning? That was the nonverbal language between the two of them. I've never met or personally known anyone who was blind. This blind man was late 40s, a heavy-set, balding man with stooped shoulders, as if he carried a great weight there. He wore brown slacks, brown shoes, a light brown shirt, a tie, a sports coat. Spiffy! Uh-oh, spiffy. That means fancy. Spiffy. He also had this full beard, but he didn't use a cane, and he didn't wear glasses. You know, if you're distinguished, you're old, and you wear glasses and use a cane, I guess. I'd always thought dark glasses were a must for the blind. Fact was, I wish he had a pair of glasses. At first glance, his eyes looked like someone else's eyes. But if you looked close, there was something different about them. Too much
Sorry,
white.
here, I wish he had a pair. What does it mean? Fact
I
was
wish a pair of glasses.
a pair of glasses. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Because he's saying most blind people wear dark glasses. I wish he had a pair because there's something wrong with his eyes. If you look close, there was something different about them. Too much white in the iris, for one thing. I'm sorry, too much white in the iris for one thing. Iris is the colored part of your eye. And the pupils seem to move around in the sockets without his knowing it, or being able to stop it. Creepy. What's creepy? Creepy is the feeling, huh?
Awful.
Awful. Yeah, the feeling you get when you're watching a horror movie. Creepy. As I stared at his face, I saw the left pupil turn in toward his nose while the other made an effort to keep in one place. But it was only an effort, for that one was on the roam without his knowing it or wanting to be. Let's see. Okay, let me just finish this. I said, "Let me get you a drink. What's your pleasure? We have a little bit of everything. It's one of our pastimes." "Bub, I'm a Scotchman myself," he said he said fast enough in his big voice. "Right, Bub." I said, "Bub? Sure you are. I knew it." He let his finger touch his suitcase, which was sitting alongside the sofa. He was taking his bearings. I didn't blame him for that. I'll move that up to your room," my wife said. "No, that's fine," the blind man said loudly. "It can go up when I go." I'll just finish the dialogue here. "A little water with the scotch," I said. "Very little," he said. "I knew it," I said. So what's going on here with all this talk? Very little water? I knew it. What's going on there? What's the feeling in the room, do you think? What does it feel like to be there? If you were there, how would you feel?
I don't know. Just a blind man.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think they're nice and relaxed and chatting, or do you think they're tense and awkward? Or do you think
it looks like quite cozy atmosphere. I don't know. Maybe this protagonist have some tension.
Seems like he doesn't really know what to say, so he's saying they're talking about. He's not really saying anything, you know. I don't want a lot of water in my scotch. I knew it. You know, it implies that you're a real man. You like it straight. You know, you like the strong stuff or whatever. So it's kind of superficial banter, kind of superficial talk. Maybe he doesn't really know what to say. Let's see. Let me just see where we are here. I want to get to the bottom of. Okay, maybe we can quickly. The problem is I have to stop the class a little bit early, but let's see where we are here. Hang on just a second. Okay. Well, let's see if we can just go to the bottom of the page here. So we're back to Yuki on 35.
He said just a tad. And the Irish actor, Barry Fitzgerald. I'm like that fellow. When I drink water, Fitzgerald said, I drink water. When I drink whiskey, I drink whiskey. My wife laughed. The blind man brought his hand up under his beard. He lifted his beard slowly and let it drop. I did the drinks 3 big glasses of scotch with a splash of water in each. Then we made ourselves comfortable and talked about Robert's travels. First, a long flight from the West Coast to Connecticut. We covered that. Then from Connecticut up here by train. We had another drink concerning that leg of the trip. I remembered having read somewhere that the blind didn't smoke because as speculation had it, they couldn't see the smoke they exhaled. Exhaled. They exhaled. I thought I knew that much, that much only about blind people. But the blind man smoked his cigarette down to the nibbon, and down to the nubbin, and then lit another one. This blind man filled the ashtray, and my wife emptied it. When we sat down at the table for dinner, we had another drink. My wife heaped Robert's plate with cube steak, scalloped potatoes, green beans. I buttered him up 2 slices of bread. I said, "Here's bread and butter for you." I swallowed some of my drink. "Now let us pray," I said, and the blind man lowered his head. My wife looked at me. Her mouth agape. Play the horn won't ring and the food doesn't get cold, I said. We dug in. We ate everything there was to eat on the table. We ate like there was no tomorrow. We didn't talk. We ate. We scoffed. We grazed the table. We were into serious eating. The blind man had right away located his food. He knew just where everything was on his plate. I watched with admiration as he used his knife and fork on the meat. He'd cut off 2 pieces of the meat, fork the meat into his mouth, and then go all out for the scalloped potatoes, the beans next, and then he'd tear off the hunk of buttered bread and eat that. He'd follow this up with a big drink of milk.
I'm going to have to just interrupt here. Sorry, Yuki. I have to interrupt. Sorry. Listen, we're going to have to stop here so I can begin the next class, okay? What we're going to ask you to do is read the rest of part 3. It's just the next page, part 2. Read the next part 2, so we can finish it up. If you'd like to read the rest of the story on your own, go ahead and read the rest of it. Maybe in the next class, the last class, we can just look at some key points of the text and then have a discussion in the second half. Okay? So it might be a good idea, actually, not just part 2. Read the rest of the story, and I'll just pick out some key passages for us to look at, and then we're going to spend the second half of the class talking about what it means, about why the story is different than what we might expect from the author, why it's important, and I want to hear your opinions more than anything. Okay? So I'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
I'll be back in just a minute for the business class. Okay? Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye for now.